podcast.
Oh, we started.
I feel like this happens every time.
Dude, I was so locked in on an article that I didn't even see the countdown. Boy.
So anyway, it's been a minute since we've done one of these episodes. It's been, I think it
Thanksgiving.
was Thanksgiving.
For me, it was like
Finals.
September.
Finals.
Yeah.
But yes, how's everybody doing?
Good, man.
Good.
Snow's gone now.
Snow is gone.
We're going to send it up to Seattle.
No, y'all about to have round 2.
Yeah, we're about to get round 2 in a little bit.
That's what you get for trying to
Or
be
is it
funny.
technically? I guess it'd be round 3.
Yeah, because the ice.
Yeah.
So that didn't. Well, they got us a virtual POC, but they didn't get us out. They got everybody else out there. There are people in our area that have not been back to school yet.
That's true.
I know a buddy of ours live in Tennessee. They stay out again tomorrow.
Dude, they're out. Man, someone could pee on the road and have a slick spot. We're out. We can't do it. Can't do it. Like half my blood is Pennsylvania blood. So like this stuff, like driving the snow and all that stuff, like it's not bad. I understand buses and stuff like that. That's a whole nother.
Did you ever live there?
I did not know.
Okay.
I've been here my entire life.
I knew your family was from up there.
Yeah.
Did not know, was not as sure.
No.
But yeah, so, we've had snow on this side of the country, and then of course we have the fires over there in Los Angeles area.
Mm-hmm.
So prayers to those guys over there.
For real, man.
That's nuts.
It's like going on right now. It doesn't seem like, like I said, we're going to get a little reprieve from it. But looking at another snowstorm and looking at winds picking up on that side of the place. So lots of going on with the weather and things of that nature. But yeah. So, but no, probably picking some stuff back up a little bit now. We got winter season, which starts in 2 weeks, actually. Actually, first shows might be this weekend.
That's what I was about to say. I think
Martin Luther
it goes
King
out pretty
weekend,
early.
Mm-hmm.
For circuits. Here's winter season. Guards usually come out a couple of weeks for percussion units do, so probably not going to see a lot of indoor drum line or indoor wind stuff happening right now. But guard will be in full swing because they basically start in like September, most of them.
Yeah.
They don't even have their closer on the field. And they've already started learning
Like
work
literally.
for.
It's
No,
a thing,
like
man.
literally.
I mean, they're doing auditions and I mean, I've seen a lot of people over Christmas break. They're like, it's a staging weekend. And I'm like, golly, I barely have my opener in.
What is there
I'm-
to stage?
Dude, I'm cutting music in May. So DCI ain't even over yet.
It's a thing. So yeah, so lots of stuff coming down the pipe, and like I said, much like the NFL, DCI is trying to be relevant year long, between show announcements and staff announcements and all of this stuff. And this past weekend, we had the proposal. I forget what they call their winter session. I think they actually call it winter session.
It's winter business meetings is what it
Winter
is.
business meetings.
Yeah.
Where they, of course, talk some business, but this is where a lot of your proposals come down for the upcoming DCI season. So we thought it'd be a good time to kind of hop on and talk about some of these. There were several things that were talked about, but only a few of them ended up getting voted on. So we're going to kind of talk about that. If you kind of want to read these yourself, you can go to DCI and they have all of these proposals and results from the Rules Congress that happened, and we're going to kind of go through some of these and kind of cover it. Chris, you want to take lead on this?
Sure,
All
I
right.
can do that. Before I go into any of them, if you don't know how the process works, they do a pretty good breakdown of this stuff. But anyone can propose a rule change in DCI. Like any core members, like any member core can propose a change. All these rule changes have to be done by October 15th. So if you want a proposal, you have to get in pretty soon, which is kind of crazy to think about. Like, you know, season's over in August, and then you got to turn around and think about what proposals you want to do by then. And then
You
it
probably
goes
would
into
know because you probably went half the
Yeah.
season pissed off about
yeah,
it.
that's what I'm saying. It's fresh on your
So,
mind.
Probably
Yeah.
ready to
change
get it out.
right now.
Anything.
So,
Mhm.
but then what happens is that it gets vetted. So, like, people go in, DCI staff, and they look at what's the proposal, what impacts does it have on DCI, what has it have on the members itself, the core. All this stuff is compiled into this nice fancy packets by December 15th. I'm reading this off of their rules process if you want to know. And then it gets sent out by DCI CEO to all the member organizations that are part of DCI. And then at the winter meetings, which just took place, they have the proposals brought up. You first have your educator instruction caucus, which is kind of like it's self-explanatory there, but your people that are involved in the day-to-day kind of stuff, your member cores, things like that. And then if it gets passed from there, then it moves to the core directors themselves, and then they vote or approve those rule changes. So there were, I think, 7 that were brought up to
Yes.
the winter meetings. I'm going to start with the withdrawn ones just to say what they were. These were withdrawn. That means that they were proposed early on, and then either they knew they didn't have enough backing or something they're waiting for another proposal to happen, or all that kind of stuff there. The first one, which I feel like they've been trying to do for every year, is to change how the adjudication happens for general effect. Instead of just having general effect 1 and 2 judges, one of the proposals was to split it between visual and music. That was brought up by the troopers core staff and educators, but that was withdrawn there. But I feel like that one pops up every year. I feel like that happens quite a bit there. So there's that one. That was withdrawn, so that did not even make it there. The other withdrawn one was proposed by a member of Boss Crusaders. It was all field performances, 15-foot marker. So field judges would be limited to areas outside the 15-foot boundary line near the front and sideline. So this was kind of expanding how far judges can go into the field, if I'm reading that right. There, that was withdrawn as well. But I can see that being understanding why that's happening, or wanted that to happen, because as stuff gets more and more complicated, they need more and more space to conduct those things. So I can see why they're trying to do.
Well, and
that.
the approach by Boston was about core member safety,
Yeah.
and I guess in turn judges' safety. I mean, we when the judges had free reign to be anywhere they wanted to on the field. I mean, we're watching these videos from in our series, the All Stars from the '90s, and there's judges that almost die in every show. And then, like you said, with things getting more complicated and with the artistry aspect and all the props and things that are being out on the fields now. I mean, imagine when Bluecoats did Riffs and Revelations if a judge would have got run over by those tires.
Right.
Like,
Golly.
just because the judges don't know where they're supposed to be or what's going to happen in that area. And then, also the performers don't have to worry about a judge being in their way and that getting them distracted and having that kind of looming either. It makes sense. But since they took them completely off the field like that and kind of restricted them to the front part of the field, I think that's helped that a lot. I don't really know about
Yeah.
restricting that even further.
And then you get to the point, then just put them in the box if that's, if that, Anyway, that was withdrawn. The other withdrawn proposal was adding a second percussion judge. This was created by the instructor caucus and a member from Santa Clara Vanguard. This was withdrawn, but they wanted to have another judge to get a more comprehensive percussion performance. I'm going to be honest with you. I think that one should happen.
It would essentially have a judge for the battery and then a judge for the front, which, I mean, considering who is pushing or who has put it out there, I mean, I don't blame them for wanting their front to get more credit than they already do. Because I do think sometimes battery gets the precedence over the front and the front becomes an afterthought sometimes. But, I mean,
You're going to change a lot of stuff up.
Mm-hmm.
I think it could work if they would have left the second percussion person in the audience or not in the box.
Yeah.
Sit them by the music performance judge.
Because you'd almost need two for color guard too.
That way you can get the cohesive part of it. Yeah, I mean,
because if you do percussion, you're gonna need two for color. But it makes sense because a lot of these groups would come down. You put two perk judges up in there, a lot of these groups gonna get looked at different, and then the staffs are gonna finally have to actually balance properly.
If you read what the words they have in here, this is really funny. So it says, quote, with 100% of the percussion caucus in agreement, it is clear the percussion one judge is essential, but the addition of another judge is needed to account for the front ensemble and non-battery performers, which can be considered a completely different category of instruments in the percussion family, unquote. So there you go. Right there. It is literally to give the front ensemble their due diligence there. I would be interested to see if this made it to the caucus, what would have happened.
I wonder why they make it.
I figured maybe logistically money or personnel
that would be the only.
Yeah, because you have to do two every show. That's a lot.
And that's
why I said because if you did,
period. Yeah, because if you did, like I said, if you did percussion, you kind of got to do color guard because it's even worse with them. But like I said, with the battery or the percussion, you're going to have a lot of groups trying to rethink their methods and how they write.
Mm-hmm.
If it wasn't being spoken loud enough, it's going to get spoken now if they do it.
I saw there was a video where they were interviewing one of the members of the council or the
caucus.
Yeah, the instructors caucus, and they were. This is kind of going back to the GE judge change, and I forget who they were interviewing, but they basically said there are two judges for GE, and they're not labeled as a visual and a music GE judge, but kind of one of them focuses more on one and the other one focuses on the other without them being labeled in that specific category.
Yes.
They kind of already are separated, just not like it's not just like laid out there for everybody like that. So it's kind of already being done, which makes sense for them to withdraw it if that's not really a change that needs to happen.
WGR does it that way. So you have a you have a music effect judge and you have a visual effects judge, but they also have a sub caption for overall effect. So you're emphasizing one or the other, but you're also still required to look at the whole picture as it relates to stuff, which means with general effect is what you should do. And I feel like, correct me if I'm wrong, it used to be split, did it not?
Yes. Yes.
I think it was.
Okay.
Because they talked about that too. Like I said, I don't remember. It was on. I saw it on social media from DCI, so you could probably look it up.
I don't know. I kind of understand. Okay, you tell me. You guys are way more adept to this stuff. So, but to me, it makes more sense to have it just overall general effect than split because they complement one another a lot. Like we talk about effectiveness of a show, music and visual moments happen almost simultaneously. You know what I mean? So like
Mhm.
to me, I feel like it just being a broad over thing makes more sense to me than splitting it because then I feel like when you split it, you're missing a lot of the effectiveness if you're just music. Okay, what are we thinking of effective wise? Well, what's happening in the show? Well, that adds the visual part to it. But you you might have a different mindset to me, but I feel like it makes sense to be just overall.
Well, that's why I like how WGI does it because it's you still have to watch it as a whole. And I think sometimes shows can be, I think more so visually, sometimes shows can be more effective than they can be musically. I think it's kind of difficult to define what effectiveness in music is. And I think that's kind of up to interpretation. While visual, it's, I don't want to say it's more cut and dry, but like,
But you
if
can
you
tell a
see,
story visually.
yeah, if you see
Yeah.
something, you're like, ooh, that was cool. You know, musically, you have to, there's some nuance and there's some subtleties and there's some smartness. Because there are shows that I find musically effective that others don't because, like, if we're doing a specific theme and, like, they use, like, all right, our marching band 2 years ago, we did the show Spin. Visually, we were spinning stuff, but musically, we were playing music that had the word spin in it. To me, that's clever. It seems obvious, but like, how often do we have a theme with that could be portrayed easily with words or with music, but they don't do it. They just use the theme just to have the theme. Um, so I think that's cool. Blue Coat is a good example of that. If you think about what the show was trying to tell musically, yeah, they did that. They went from this unified, solid chord at the beginning of the show into towards the end, mass chaos. But every now and then they went back to that unified thing, just like change it tends to do. So like that type of stuff, you almost have to,
Like SEV.
yeah.
Yeah.
Um, like you almost have to be. Judges have to be smart, well-rounded individuals, especially if you're judging effect. If you're judging effect, you better like be into all different types of music. You better be a little bit cultured
Mm.
because if you're not, you're going to miss a reference.
What?
Where's the button? Because WGI need to be. Never mind. You know what?
we're getting close to that. We're getting close to that. You can express that
I'm just
sentiment.
So, but I mean, and I've heard it. I mean, I've heard it said from other judges, but it does. It means I'll hear. I was watching a React video from another group today, and they caught in a Blue Coat show from this past year where they thought they brought back the theme from the opener later on. They just modified it and changed it, and I listened to it again. I was like, huh. That's smart. Like that's the nerdy type of stuff that I like. Like so, but it's so subjective. So subjective. So, but you have to be well rounded. You can't be stuck in your ways and be a good effect judge. Like those guys and girls think a little bit differently.
All right. So those three we just talked about didn't even make it. The next one we're gonna do is one that did get proposed and then did not pass. This is brought up by Aaron Beck of the Bluecoats. And this was to increase the overall size of the pit area. And if you know the Bluecoats, it makes total sense. But what they're trying to do says to accommodate for evolving show designs, a proposal has been submitted to expand the size of the pit area, stretching it from the 30-yard line to the opposite 30-yard line. This would give cores more room to showcase their front ensemble setups and creative staging, provided venues can support the adjustments.
They're trying to
do too much.
We would like all of this.
Nobody's gonna be able. Nobody's gonna do that.
They will.
They will.
According to the video, it was more so to get the front sideline pushed out 5 feet more.
Yes,
I get that.
Because
I get that.
I think they said because they wanted it to have more room than just like 2 lines.
Yeah,
without having to put your front on the field. That's what that was.
Yeah. It did not pass though. It failed. 15-3 were the nays versus the yays. So it did not happen. But I can see where Bluecoats coming from with that though.
You gotta make sure every stadium has that kind of space.
And that's why it didn't pass.
Every single one has to have that space.
Well, it did say provided venues can support the adjustment. So, like, I'm guessing if it was happening, you could. If not, you didn't have to. But also that defeats the purpose of the whole proposal anyway.
Yeah, I mean that you talking about 5 feet. That's a design thing. So, like, if that would have passed, you best believe Bluecoats would have designed it to where they would have used that 5 feet.
Yeah, immediately.
That's basically what this boils down to. Is like a lot of these proposals is they have an idea. They need something done in the rules to allow for this to happen. And what other groups have benefited from it? Yeah, I'm sure.
Well, I mean, you think about like the year Bluecoats. Was it when they won it or they came in second? It was a couple years ago. We're doing this podcast and we did the proposals, and like every single proposal was to go against the Bluecoats. You remember that? Like, it was like electronics.
Like the music.
A lot of it was directed towards like miking and amplification.
Yeah, all that. Yeah, miking
like
amplification. So like Will said at the beginning, you're pissed off all season. This is your chance to try to do something about it. So like, and also they're already thinking, design wise what they're doing, probably, pretty soon after the season or even when the season's going on, troopers. So like, it makes sense that you want to try to, I won't say gain an advantage, but utilize the things that you can by passing rules.
I think ultimately they didn't do it because it was like Bruce alluded to, not all stadiums have that extra 5 feet to give, and giving the extra 5 foot that thins out how much basically it's a traffic jam down front. Trying to get in and out of stuff. I think they're guy that's in charge of like logistical safety.
Because I know we sat here and talked about it, or we may not have talked about it directly on the cast. Maybe like on a when we do the little what we call it, the little live stream on YouTube. We sat up here and watched shows before, and you got freaking Boston or somebody coming in the middle of the SCV show. It's like, can they get done before y'all start rolling the cart up? You ain't gonna be able to do that no more if you're 5 feet up into the stands. It's like. But I see what they wanted to do. Because I had read that one. I was like, Bluecoats, I get it. But I don't know, man.
But just think about listening environments. Like that would
and that's already a struggle. Y'all already splitting the pit up, and
what I'm saying, if you go deeper in that water,
and it's even further back. They gotta listen.
It's further back. Well, you're thinking whole group, and then that does make sense. I was thinking just for the front ensemble in general, they won't be as wide. They'll be stacked, which could help. Not that they need help, but I don't know. It's interesting. I would have liked to have seen it pass just to see what Bluecoats would have did with it.
they would have done something, and the next proposal would be, we need to modify this to go back to the setup.
Well, they always do something. Like, I mean, they've split the pit. They've been on the field, so they've done a few different things. I mean, Crown, that was a thing for a little bit. The pits were on the field.
Mm-hmm.
I remember Crown's beneath the surface show, I believe it was, when they were off to the side.
Yeah.
So, I don't know. It would have been interesting to see how that goes, but from a logistics, safety, traffic jam standpoint, it makes sense why I got shut down.
All right. So let's get into the ones that passed. So like I said, there was 2 passed. This one is pretty much, I think it's like semantics, like how what things are considered certain instruments. So this was percussion instrumentation. This proposal changes the wording of what percussion instruments actually are. And so, like in their words, it says the rules regarding percussion instrumentation are outdated compared to what courts have used for decades and currently only allow all acoustic percussion membrane and keyboard instruments. This technically means that non-mallet keyboard idiophones, cymbals, woodblocks, that kind of stuff are currently not legal according to the rules of DCI, so they changed it to allow those things. That passed unanimously. No one voted no against that one.
Yeah.
So it's really funny though that like
It's
like those, like you find those like old like 1832 laws or stuff like that are in the books. Like you can't eat ice cream on Wednesdays in a public square. That's what this kind of reminds me of. So,
which is used to be a real law.
Yeah.
Can't carry ice cream in your back pocket.
Yeah. So, that one's pretty easy. I don't think there's a lot of talk about that one. I think it's kind of funny. Now the big one that has a lot of got me thinking about what the heck the troopers are about to be doing this year. So there was a proposal that was passed, but it did have an amendment to it. So I'll talk about the initial proposal and then we'll go into the amendment after it was passed. So this was proposed by the troopers, and this was solo instrument edition. And so I'll read their summary. It says this proposal will allow each corps to feature one designated featured instrument, acoustic, woodwind, electronic, or otherwise throughout the season. This instrument could be amplified and enhanced with effects, creating new possibilities for musical expression and innovation on the field. And so that was passed with an amendment. And so this was the modified language on the amendment. So this is the actual proposal that passed. So it says, in a performance, a single featured instrument not otherwise permitted by Rule 4.8 may be used. Notwithstanding instruments otherwise allowed, this featured instrument may be used throughout the entire performance. This featured instrument may be mic'd and amplified in any manner, including the use of effects without restriction. All existing rules regarding equipment, amplification, and electronic usage shall apply to all other instruments and equipment not designated as the sole featured instruments.
They talked about that on that video that I watched too, and it's basically like anything that's not already a traditional instrument any instrument can be featured as the soloist for the entirety of the show. So think back.
Like a flute.
Well, yes, or like they did the electric cello a few years ago.
Yeah, they did.
I want to say the example that the guy talked about was a harmonica, which they've used before, which would match the theme in this episode 3 that they're doing this coming up year. So,
and my thing is, who's pulling the saxophone out first? Which corps? Because that's the instrument I think of immediately.
All these jazz shows.
Oh man, I don't. Whew, a saxophone in drum corps. Okay, let me start by saying this. I'm not saying we shouldn't use other instruments and all that good stuff, but just from my ears perspective, a saxophone would not work in drum corps. I don't I can't hear it. I think you can get away with a flute. I think you can get away with like an oboe, maybe a percent, but like with just what they're doing.
Okay, so let me ask you
You're
this.
talking. It depends on what it.
I mean, yeah, but you think about.
We're going to see a post on social media. The Troopers are looking for an English horn player for the 2025 season. Please email.
So let me ask you guys this because I'm kind of confused on this part, and I think you guys can help me out. So other instruments have been able to be used. We just talked about how there's a cello on the field, or we see like the guitar solo, so that kind of stuff. So is this saying,
that was only for a short amount of time?
So
like it was like a featured moment. This is saying like
you can do it the entire.
If you have
show.
a featured soloist for the entirety of your show.
So this would be kind of like what Crown did that time. They had that vocalist on the field the entire time.
Yes,
that kind of thing.
Or like when Cadets did the Pines of Rome show when they had the flugelhorn soloist, like the whole show.
Okay.
Or trumpet soloist whole show.
That's what I was going to say. Because those instruments have happened. I know, like not woodwind, but like electronic stuff.
Even non didn't. Who did the red violin? Will?
Was that Phantom? Boston do a red violin show?
I think it was Phantom.
The red violin, yeah, Phantom.
Did they? Well, maybe it wasn't an electric violin. I don't know. And the Boston Blue Devils have used a violin before.
Blue Devils.
Yeah, because they did. Yeah, I don't remember what the song was, but I remember them having it.
It's almost like
does it just mean somebody can just stay on the sound line and play a flute the whole show?
Basically,
that's what I get. That's what I was thinking. That's what makes sense to me.
If it's in the way they're making it, saying if it's part of the show and it's a featured instrument, like it's the main character. Yeah. I guess.
Which makes sense for the Troopers because they've got a character that we've had for this will be a third season. And really I'm willing
for just him.
Huh? Yeah. I'm willing to bet. To bet.
Well, depend like if
I bet it's a harmonica player. I guarantee it has to be. They've used it for a small chunk. And if they've got the same kid that did it whatever year they did it, 2 years ago, I think they had them.
Because it sounds like they want to just protect themselves for the what if. So if it is a harmonica player and they go out and do that, then they don't want to get, pointed or whatever for doing it because it's actually in the rule that you can do it.
This is what I'm thinking. They already had their show picked out. They already know what they were doing. They announced like the day after the finals was over. They probably had this in their back pocket for a while. And they probably had, okay, let's start writing the show, music-wise, what we want to do. See if this proposal passes. And if it does, we'll keep going this direction. If not, we have a backup plan B to kind of minimize that. So I think they're going full-blown, like, we're going to have a featured player the entire time.
That can get old quick.
Depends on how they do it, because I'm not thinking that they're gonna have him play for 11-some minutes straight. But I think it feels like they want to make sure that when or wherever they bring him in, it's okay.
So what
nobody gonna say nothing about it.
What constitutes a feature? Is there some like arbitrary time limit on a feature?
Right. And they said feature for the whole show.
I was just saying, like old
like
rules,
if that sound is predominant over the rest, even if it's full ensemble, because they say you can mic it, so it doesn't mean it has to be a solo
flute concerto or clarinet concerto, or that's the only. I'd have to see how this is gonna work, because for me it's just like they've been doing it anyway, so why?
But it's been just.
It sounds like
small doses. It sounds like this is gonna.
It sounds like if they have been doing it in a certain way, maybe people have been saying something, or they not getting the credit or something. Because there was something triggered this.
Well, you think about that Oil, that Greed show, that celloist was featured
Mm-hmm.
the entire show.
That's what I'm saying. That's
like
so is it because it was electronic that it wasn't an issue? And
Maybe.
so if they wanted to use an acoustic one,
But I mean, think back to when wasn't it Scouts that had a trumpet soloist?
it was
When
a
they
female,
did,
female
when they
trumpet
did the
soloist,
female
yeah.
soloist, that was like she was featured the whole show.
That's what I'm saying. It's
I
almost
think it's
like
kind of
if
like what you're saying. They're
SUV's
trying to make
character
sure
did.
they're trying to make sure their butts covered, just in case somebody wants to go look at the rule book and
Well,
say, "Well, where does it say that this is allowed?"
That's what
Now
I
it
was
is
saying.
for sure.
no offense, but I'm not worried about what the troopers are doing. Like from a competitive standpoint.
Mm-hmm. You get down to the nitty gritty, somebody might be splitting hairs. You never know. Trying to argue that they should, like, if it is in tenths of a point or thousands of a point or something, you never know. Somebody trying to get in finals, and Troopers got that 12th place spot. I don't know.
But is a flute solo going to be the thing to do it? I mean, I it's either they want to CYA or they're planning on using a woodwind instrument to do this.
I'm thinking
because
flute, flute or harmonica. Those are the two things I'm thinking.
Because we've used everything else. We've used string instruments. We've used electronics. We've amplified it.
I wonder. Okay, I'm throwing some crap on the wall. See if it sticks. So they want one feature instrument, right? That doesn't mean they can't have other features throughout. So what if this is their big combination show? They have the celloist. We have a celloist playing. We have a harmonica playing, but then the feature instrument is like a flute or something like that.
I'm
to bring
sorry.
it all together.
I do not want to. I don't go to DCI to hear a flute being played.
I'm just saying. I'm thinking about like this is the combination show. You know.
There's something. There's an instrument that they want to use, and they want to make sure they can use it. And I feel like Vanguards did that.
Yeah.
I'm telling you, that's all it is. It's all what all of this stuff is the groups come up with something, have an idea of something, they go check, find out you can't, so they propose something. So regardless of whatever, it's like something triggered this idea.
Like I said, I still want to know, like,
it has to be a solo
what a feature right? Before this happened. Like, how long is there some number that made if we have past that is now not just a special solo, but now it's like the entire show. Does that make sense? Like, if a guitar player is playing, that's a feature. When does that bleed over to it being a, like, is there some arbitrary thing in the rules that say what that is? Because you think about the guitar last year too, in Troopers show, they featured that a lot. So I don't know. I just want to know if there's like some just like number out there that changes it from just being a
like
special solo thing.
Has to be under so much time.
Yeah, like,
for it to be considered.
Someone knows that wants to do some digging. By all means, please, because I know I don't have the time to do that. So, all I know is that I was looking at Twitter, X, whatever you want to call it, social media. This one has a lot of people in a tizzy right now already.
What are people thinking about it?
There are some people that are.
They're just mad because it's got woodwinds in it.
That's what it is.
That's all it is.
They're just pissed.
It ain't nothing else.
It's just pissed because they feel like it's going to be marching band.
It's woodwinds. They see the word woodwinds and that's it. It's the same thing as how they've been seeing the word electronics and all this other stuff. They saw the one word woodwinds and went into a fit, and that's all it was. And like all these proposals are geared for that specific group, but they try and hope that maybe what their idea is will also benefit someone else. But they don't care if it does. They care if it benefits their group. So, like I said, Troopers came up with have something in their show they need to work or happen, and they proposed this, and it's going to help them out.
and I think some people need to realize also, just because it's proposed doesn't mean people are going to do it.
Exactly.
Mm-hmm.
Like, because yes, this passed, so don't think, oh my God, it passed, everybody's going to. No, they passed it because they thought it was a good idea. They may want to do it later on. I'm reminded of when WGI allowed for whites.
Yeah.
We thought, oh my God, everybody's going to be using them all the time now. I think 5 groups came out with whites like the next year. And
because people realize how hard it actually is.
Yeah.
Ain't nobody got time for that. It's tough. And if you ain't got a real, like, I guess, engineer or somebody, whatever, who is about that, don't do it. I'm trying to tell you, don't do it. It's going to hurt your show more than anything. And I mean, at this point right now, the best group doing it is Mystique. So if you ain't Mystique, I wouldn't do it.
I'm reading this rule again.
Uh-huh.
And they passed with modified language. And the language in a performance, a single featured instrument not otherwise permitted by Rule 4.8 may be used. Well, I don't know what Rule 4.8 includes or doesn't include. Notwithstanding instruments otherwise allowed. So instruments that are already allowed doesn't apply to this. This featured instrument may be used throughout the entire performance. But here's the part that I'm thinking it might be more for than rather what kind of instrument it is. This featured instrument may be mic'd and amplified in any manner, including the use of effects without restriction. All existing rules regarding equipment, amplification, and electronic usage shall apply to all other instruments and equipment not designated as the sole featured instrument.
So they're going to mix it?
Well, yeah, because, I mean, if you think about now that you reread that, Blue Coats mics themselves and they amplify themselves and they do effects and all that good stuff. But those instruments are already permitted.
Mm-hmm.
Nobody's done it with was it cello affected? I mean, I guess it was amped. It had something because it was on a tower.
Yeah, they mic'd the cello.
Yeah, but you're talking about like
they gotta be wanting to use a woodwind instrument somehow.
It's gotta be. For some, and they needed something of this nature to pass.
Not that that's a bad thing. I just want to keep reiterating that.
But yeah, they and them specifically, they're on this to be continued show stream, and it's fitting with the narrative or whatever their concept is. So they needed something like this. So I'm telling you, and that's what sparked them to write this.
I don't know. What instrument are they going to use that reflects the Wild West?
Well, if they do what they did in February last year and do a preview of it, we'll find out real quick what it is.
I don't know. I think it's like I said. I think it's more or less about the role of the amplification and effects than it is about the type of instrument they're wanting to use. But if I'm Blue Coats, I'm licking my chops at hearing this rule pass too, because we already know what they're capable of within the rules, and now the rules have changed a little bit. Because if anybody's going to master that,
that's the thing. You can't beat an alive and acoustic instrument sound. Like that's not forgiven, but like the soundscapes that groups are creating, Blue Coats, Blue Devils, Boston,
mm-hmm.
You can almost get a woodwind sound with what they're doing now without.
See, I just don't think it's going to be woodwind. I think it's going to be a harmonica. I think it's going to be a harmonica because they've already used it. Yeah, but now the rules have changed and they can use it differently than they did in the past, is what I'm assuming. Whatever they're wanting to do, they couldn't do.
It better be, because here's the thing. Like I said, not that people can't figure it out, but to mix a woodwind instrument with a brass instrument, it's hard with that much power. That's going to be tough. That's really going to be tough, and it's going to stick out of the texture. I mean, think about voice. Nobody ever really got it all the way right.
Mm-hmm.
See
No,
how fast that dwindled out in DCI? It came in a hot minute and gone.
And you have to use it wisely. I think Mandarins did a really good job with it. The year that they did it, and cadets were good with the choir.
Yeah,
Like
Crown did well when they had the choir.
You just gave me
flashbacks. But yeah, we need to get with D Mason. I think he worked with the cadets.
He did. Yep.
That'd be cool to watch that show and talk. Anyway, so yeah, I don't know, man. I guess we just need to see what's happening. But I just feel like it's a rule that we've already been doing as just the featured part, like kind of along the lines of what you're saying, because like it almost sounds like they're allowed, like concertos are going to be a thing now. And then if they're playing a piano concerto, which pianos are allowed anyway, but like if they're playing a clarinet concerto, then you can have a clarinet player playing the actual clarinet part on the clarinet concerto. Sure.
Yeah.
Like I'm not against it.
I think if anybody,
is it going to be worth it?
That's the key.
It's got to be. If it's enough for them to do this, in their minds, it has to be.
It better be.
No, I'm saying in their minds, it's worth it. Because why else would you propose something like this if it's not worth it to you that much to make sure all your ends are covered? So at the end of the day, like us and anybody else who reads this or catches wind from this and has mentioned it, Troopers will probably be the first group out that everybody's going to keep their eye on.
I mean, they submitted it. They got it. They better use it.
No, I'm just saying. I'm saying like because they did this, everybody's going to be wanting to see what was like. What are y'all going through for needing to do all this? You know what I'm saying? That's what I'm saying.
Yep. Well, those are the proposals. There was some other news that came out of the DCI Winter Meetings. We want to talk about that real quick.
Sure.
Do you guys have any final thoughts on the proposals?
I ain't gonna lie. I kind of want the one for SCV to pass.
Yeah, me too.
The two percussion judges?
Yep.
I want them to look into the color guard as well, but I do want this percussion one to pass.
I mean, at some point. They're going to have to bring it back up.
Yeah, they are.
They're going to have to figure money out.
They are.
I don't think they're going to either going to have to fill money out or they're going to have to treat it like they do regionals.
I was about to say the same thing. Yep.
Mm-hmm.
And it only used two percussion. And I would be down for two guard, but then do we use two guard? I mean, two brass too? It's
Not.
I think percussion it's segmented enough
because it makes
to warrant that.
Yeah, because it literally is two different sections.
Well, people
within the same section.
I mean, you got people in our world and that's in content creation that will be the first one to say, "I'm not a very strong insert section here, whether it's battery person or front ensemble person." So, like, it's hard to catch everything, especially when you're on the field. Because if you're on the field and you're behind the front ensemble, that means you're paying attention to the battery.
All the time.
Not that you can't hear the front, but if you're closer to the field, that means you're trying to see.
And that shifts it to the music judges to have more of a thought about, or effect judges having to think more about that too.
Because the problem is also I haven't seen a plenty of time of judges in front of the front talking about the battery in the back. Like what are we doing? You're literally and not a word was said about the front. So I done seen judges do that.
I don't know. I'm in agreement. I think it should be done, and either either you have somebody that's strictly battery and then the other person like split it 10-10, or you put you have a field percussion person and then a percussion person that's in the box or whereabout. That way they can get a full percussion ensemble viewpoint of what's going on. Because the beauty in some of these books is not necessarily what the battery or the front ensemble is playing, but it's how they're playing it together. And if you're focused on one particular section, you can miss some of that. I mean, it's the same thing with the guard. If you're on the field and you're watching hand placement and all that good stuff, you might miss the 37 rifle line ripple across the whole entire stadium because you're concentrating on this one area. So I could see it, but I don't know. I hope it gets considered again because there's some fronts that are doing some really, really good stuff. That should get credit, and there's
like
some fronts that
unnecessary
aren't.
stuff.
And there's some fronts that aren't doing anything.
Not a damn thing.
So yeah, I think that has been vocalized on this show
comparatively
quite a bit. All right, there is one other piece of news from the DCI Winter Meetings, and it deals with New Hampshire's own, the Spartans. This year will be their transition year into world class. So in 2026, they will hopefully, if they do the things they need to do, move into a world class category. So this year they are doing a hybrid schedule or classification. And some shows they will be considered a world class core, and other shows they will be an open class core. And so a lot of the events that they'll be going to, some of them, like I said, there'll be some that will be world class. If you go to DCI, you can see those events where they'll be considered world class versus open class. They did a good job of kind of dividing that out there. I lost my train of thought there. Let's see. Oh, one of the quotes from them, it says that we've gone from a weekend-only core to doing 10 to 20-day tour to now full 45-day tour. And we have 165 young adults that get on our buses and travel with us around the country every summer. We owe them the ability to have the full experience. It's just part of the evolution process that is pointing us in a natural direction for this to be the next step. So, there you go. So, if you guys remember, we talked a little bit about the beginning of the DCI season last year about this new, like, what was it called? What was it called? I can't remember.
It's like a classification system.
Yeah.
Like a
transition. Yeah. And we wondered what would that look like for an open class core to world class core, and we've gotten our answer because we've had it to get to open class, but we didn't have an answer to get to world class. And this looks like it's going to be what they're wanting to do.
How can you do half and half?
So what I read or what I heard, because they interviewed their core director in part of this meeting, and I saw the video, and he said there are shows that they're going to be at where they're the only open class group there. So what they're wanting is to just have them go ahead and be included in the world class recap, because they're still judged using the same sheets when they're open class, but they're not really compared to anybody from world because they're in a different class. So what they're asking is for Spartans to be included in that comparison with the rest of the world class groups so they can have an idea of where they sit and what they are noticing as areas where they're like behind the world class groups or where are they keeping up with them and things like that. So that way when they do transition to world, they know what things they need to like tweak and fix to make them more competitive.
The events that they'll be world class are Drum Across the Smokies, Drums Across America, DCI Tupelo, DCI Little Rock, Brass Impact, DCI Delaware, DCI East Showcase, and then DCI Eastern Classic. That's where they'll be world class. And the other events, they'll be open class.
Wait, where are the Spartans from?
New Hampshire.
New Hampshire.
The East Coast? Okay.
Yep. The pride of New Hampshire.
Their first 5 shows are in world.
Yep.
Yes, because that's what their director said. He was like, I think he said 7 of their first 10 or 11 shows of the season, they're the only world, open group at that show. So he's like, we want to just go ahead and have them include us in the recap to see where we stand and where we sit. So
they will be competing in open class finals or open class championships. Mm-hmm. So listen, I've always said iron sharpens iron, and
I mean, this could be a thing that leads to like other groups that are in a transition year. They do a hybrid model like that. Like the year before you go world, you kind of do both.
Is there any other core though right now that in open class that would want to make that jump in the next few years though? They're really the only ones I really feel like.
I would not be shocked if Colombians try, and because they've been on the up and up the last few years, and maybe Battalion. I don't think it would be within like the next 2 or 3 for either one of those, but I think
say Colombians will give themselves a couple more years.
Mm-hmm.
They are still new, but and it's going to come down to members for them.
Mm-hmm.
Gold, maybe.
Gold. Yeah, see, that's who I was trying to think of.
I don't know if they would be in West Coast like that.
That would be the only reason why I say they wouldn't, just because of the updated cost.
Okay.
By the way, what open class group is like? It's like $600 to do their core. Is it open class or all age? I can't remember. There's some all age groups like
it might be all age.
$600 to do the season.
I don't see an open class being able to sustain a season off $600.
Maybe it was all age.
It's gotta be all age.
Mm-hmm. Are Cascades coming out this year?
I have no
knowledge.
Who was it that ain't coming? Who said they weren't coming out?
They haven't camps, so
okay.
Jersey Surf.
That's who. Okay, never mind. I was gonna say because if for some reason Cascades weren't coming out, Colombians got the door open because they're the only group up there for that area.
Yeah, what happened?
They were beating Crusaders. Cascades too.
Mm-hmm.
Oregon Crusaders was about that business.
That's where I'd say they would go.
But they ain't out no more.
Well.
So yeah, there you go. So Spartans are making their move, which I feel like I think it's time for them to try. I think.
I mean, I think there's a lot of groups. I mean, I think if you're making, from a competitive standpoint, if you're making semifinals comfortably, I think you're in pretty good shape. I think if you're hanging with the likes of Blue Devils B and Vanguard Cadets when they were a group, I think that means you have it should suggest, I shouldn't say you do have, but it would suggest that you have a pretty good organization to be able to sustain a tour and compete with those guys. So I think that's just kind of the next step.
I saw someone on Twitter put this. I can't remember who it was, but they're saying it's probably a good thing that Spartans are doing this because that gives you another core in the Northeast. I'm like, what are you talking about? I'm like, well, it does make sense because cadets are gone and Jersey Surf is not going out this year. And so, like, you got Boston and Spartans up there.
In world.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying.
Yeah.
So like,
yeah.
you're getting another world class core up there. Probably not as expensive as Boston. I don't know the numbers, but I would suggest that. And the person put is pretty good because Boston's has gone more nationally instead of regionally, so they're pulling a lot
They
more
did
from.
that. That's what I was about to say. You gonna have a tough time getting into Boston regardless.
Yeah,
So it makes sense for them to be there, and it could be like an unspoken kind of thing, kind of like how Southwind was Madison's feeder core kind of deal. It's like,
or
hey, go here, and then we can.
Mm-hmm.
So there's some other cores that are moving and trying to get their evaluation process to move classes. Starting in 2025, Arsenal, Eclipse, and Gems are seeking to join Open Class in the future. They've been Sound Sport for the last couple of years.
That's when
So if this is year one, ensembles are Sound Sport, and they're in the all age or open class candidate. Then year two, if they're successful, they advance to affiliate, all age or open. And then year three, if they're successful there, they're full members. So they would start the year at year one.
Yeah.
Then Minnesota Brass, Northern Lights, and Steel City Ambassadors are currently looking at all age class distinction. And then Zephyrus and Memphis Blues are seeking open class status.
Yeah, so they're all those last ones you say they're all in year two of their
their
thing. Yeah, because we talked about them last year. So once again, it's good we have these cores because it is a dry area in the like the southeast middle Midwest area. You do have cores, like you have them, you know what I mean, but like there's not a whole lot like Arkansas, Tennessee, that area. You got Music City, but like that little like western part of the area, like especially like Memphis Blues, they can tap in that area a lot. Louisiana, those kind of areas, Texas. Now we talked about last episodes ago, but like I'm glad that they're doing that affiliate program, and I think it's smart to infuse some new talents and some new.
Well, it's good that there's like an official process because, and it gives them time to not only figure out if they can compete with their show product and things, but like manage their organization enough to be sustainable.
I think it's more for that part of it
because how many groups have jumped from open to world and only been there for a couple of years and then we don't see them again?
Well, shoot, how many people have just jumped to open and
exactly.
Right? Or just start open and just flounder, yeah.
That's the thing is people start these groups. You see it a lot in indoor. Is they I want to start a group. I want to start a group, and you start a group, and they may come out and they may do really, really well, but to sustain that type of excellence from an organizational and business standpoint is tough because you do well, and then you want to do even better the next time, which means you're probably trying to spend more money than you.
It's always the business side of things that gets a group.
Yes.
It'll never be talent. It'll never be teaching. It's always going to be the business side of things.
The logistics for folks that don't do the research, or it's just like anything else. People are like, I want to, you get these young kids. I want to be a marching band director, and they go to school to be a music educator, and then they get their band, and it's not the band that they thought it was going to be, or it's not the logistical things that they thought it was going to be because they went to this upper echelon high school that has all this money, and nope, your band has 10% of that budget.
Preach.
and you got to figure out how all of that stuff works, and you're dealing with people too. There's a lot of things that go behind it. So with this evaluation portal that DCI has, it sets up a structure. And if you could survive 3 years, then yeah, you probably are in good shape to have a drum corps for the future. So,
Oh,
Zach,
Zach, you're on here twice, sir.
because I was about to cut
there you go.
somebody out for jumping in the stream, boy. I was
like,
about
who
it's
has
about
our
to get
link?
real hood here in a minute. Like, how did that happen? Who are you? We done got hacked on the pocket. Okay.
Oh man,
I don't know. My screen froze, and then it tried to reconnect, and once I just refreshed.
Oh man,
Weird, bro.
I legit thought someone was in here. I was like, who has our link? Who did it?
That's crazy. So, but yeah, so yeah, I'm glad they have a system, and hopefully, if it works, I think something like this obviously could work with WGI as well, with new groups coming in and groups that are like, hey, we want to be promoted. So what do we need to do from a design standpoint? I think people need help with that stuff. I know I could have, if I had a mentor, and I got people I could have called, I guess, but if I had, somebody, you're in this new class, here's what you can do to help. Instead of, all right, you're in this new class, bye.
Yeah.
What am I supposed to do now? So, no, kudos to DCI. I think they do a lot of things right, but this is a good one. This is a really good one. So,
because at the end of the day, it's business for them.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah,
the more groups, the more they get, and the more they can put out, the more they can provide, and everything is going to be more.
Fill stadiums, fill events,
better facilities.
Mm-hmm.
Acquire is acquire the right word? Acquiring all age, absorbing all age, assimilating all age. I don't know.
Merging.
That helps.
Merging all age.
Merging.
All age. It helped. I look at all these cores. I'm like, okay, DCI is okay. The cost thing will figure itself out. One or two things is going to happen. Either one, they're going to get another set of income somehow, some way, or two, they're going to cut back because too many people like the activity to let it falter. You got individual groups that may have fallen off, but I think I have faith that before it gets too bad, somebody will be like, we need to calm this down a little bit.
I don't want to get into another hour and a half, but I will say I think the bubble's about to burst in that regard. Like you said, one way or the other. I think we're teetering on the edge of it.
Because at some
it's
point
going to be tough, though.
Well, at some point, a core is going to outcost their membership, and they're going to see it. They're like, okay, if we want this to continue, we're either going to have to find bigger sponsors, or we're going to have to cut back on costs. So I would hope that folks in charge will realize that and try to hedge, keep the wheels between the hedges. But it's been going on for a long time. Long time. I mean, this is a hurdle, and I'm sure they've had them before. So, this is my thought. It's just like when NBA was having those strikes and NFL was having strikes. I mean, organizations of this, and it always comes down to money and who gets it, how much they get, how to go about it. But if you like the activity and you want to see it continue, support it. Go to shows.
Buy a shirt.
Buy a shirt. Buy DVDs, even though they're not selling them.
Sponsor somebody's fees.
Yeah, do something to help. Don't just complain about it. Be part of the solution. So, because it's good stuff. I think as we've watched the '90s, I think we've seen The only thing that has changed is there's electronics. I think the quality of drill is still there. I think the quality of music is there, if not better. And kids are executing, and they're being asked to do more.
Back in my day, we didn't have all that dancing.
Well,
I can see I can see Zach sitting over that. He started to perk up. He's ready.
but we've watched 90s, and they had a little bit of body. They just don't do as much of it. But back then, like that first time somebody like went out of first position, I bet, boy.
What do you mean they didn't do a 4-count drag turn?
Yeah, or what is this asymmetrical drill? What is that?
That's why I can't wait to do the 70s, dude, and 80s, just to watch that transition. If you don't know what we're talking about, we have a new series on our YouTube page called DCI All Stars. You should go check it out because it is awesome.
Cool.
I'm having a blast with it.
So, yep. All right, we got anything else?
Let's get out of here, man.
Yep.
So, yeah, we'll be talking about stuff. Stuff's coming. Don't know what we're talking about. We'll talk about football. I don't know if there's some.
And the Commanders won.
They did win.
Shut up.
They did.
What?
Beat the Succaneers.
Now I need to check my parlay.
I forgot you were Saints fan.
That's right. And we are trash. But they are too.
Not as trashy as the Titans.
Titans, Titans. Boy.
Po Titans.
Po Titans.
But yeah, so we might talk about sports next week. Who knows? I don't know. But anyway, so be looking out for another episode. We're going to be talking about lots of stuff. Winter season's coming, so I don't know if there's some show announcements that pique our interest. You may do that. Or if you're a guard or percussion or winds player in the winter session and you want us to talk about your show announcement, let us know. We'll do it. For sure.
A shout.
You can
The
find
hell
us
was
on...
that?
Wait a minute.
Okay, we're going to end the podcast. Some just loaded.
All right.
Or the
I don't know
world's...
You can find us on YouTube and Facebook and Twitter. You can also listen to us on Apple Podcasts and Spotify. Like, comment, share, subscribe. Make sure you let us know how you're feeling about things. It's free right now. Zildjian's going to be starting his own podcast here soon.
He said, "Don't talk to me."
You know what you did.
Throw him halfway across the room in a second. Not really, Peter. Don't come after me.
Oh.
Immediately.
Love you. Anyway, for Zach, Will, and Chris, my name is Seth. It's been another episode on the Back Hash. You guys take care, stay warm, pray for our folks out in the Los Angeles area, and gay school, if you got it. I don't know, something. I don't know, sports ball. Just get excited about something. Be happy to be alive.
That's right.
All right, we are
Dut.
Out.
Mustard.